Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone, or good evening, wherever you're at. Good afternoon. It's 8 o'clock here in the mountains of El Salvador. And yeah, so today I imagine that some of the students are the same ones that I've been speaking with in past weeks, but I've been developing several different courses that are tied to the general theme of community development or international development. And today we want to expand that discussion a little bit and talk about local economy. I want to first, before we discuss what that is, put it into a little historical perspective, comparing local economy to what many of us understand to be economics today. As a scientific discipline. When we talk about an economist, we probably think about someone who works at the World Bank or who works at the Ministry of Economy for our countries, that talks about globalization and trade policies and monetary issues, et cetera, et cetera. But we're going to be speaking a little bit more about the roots of what economy is and how that has transitioned. That's the first part of my talk. Then we're going to transition to what is local economy exactly, and we're going to base that off of a few separate principles. How can we define what local economy is? And lastly, I want to end with just a few examples, two quick examples about local economy in practice. Okay. And like I said, yeah, I always try to, I have an hour for these classes. I will try and do my best to finish up in about 45 minutes so that we can have 10, 15 minutes at the end for discussion, conversation, questions. If you all are in complete disagreement with what I've had to say, you're more than welcome to say that as well. So we'll try and leave some space at the end of the class for that. As the professor said, if anybody does have any urgent questions during the talk, feel free to raise your hand, and I'll stop my presentation so that we can ask some of the questions. Okay, so let's start with a historical perspective. Economy comes from the Greek word. Etymologically, it comes from the Greek word oikonomia. And oikonomia, literally translated, means management or care for the household. When we think of economics today, I think most of us probably don't think about the household. The vast majority of tasks that we do in our homes are not usually considered to be economic in nature. And there's been all these different discussions about, for example, the role of women in housework, caring for children, cooking, cleaning, tending the garden around the home. The vast majority of those tasks are not monetized. They don't receive any sort of economic payment for that. And so most people don't think that that has anything to do with economics. It's just something we do. But if we go back to the root of the word, oikonomia, economy originally means the ways in which that we manage or care for our household. There's another word that also comes from Greek, which is crematistics. Crematistics, as a definition, means the study of wealth or a particular theory of wealth as measured in money. So now if we're going to look at both of these words, and we're going to say, if you block out, the first word, if you block out this here, oikonomia, and you block out crematistics, and we were to just read the definitions, the vast majority of us would say economy is the second one, right? It's the study of wealth or a particular theory of wealth as measured in money. That's what we understand as economics today. But when we go back to the etymological meaning of the word, oikonomia, economy, originally meant the tasks and the processes and the norms and the cultural distinctions about how we cared for our household, and not just household as in where we live, but household as the local community, the local bioregion that sustained us. Wendell Berry is an author from the United States. He's a farmer and an author and a poet, and he's written a lot about this distinction between these two different definitions of economy. And he says, this is a quote from him: oikonomia is the science or the art of efficiently producing, distributing, and maintaining concrete use values for the household and the community over the long run. In contrast, crematistics, which is the study of wealth, like we said, is the art of maximizing the accumulation of individuals by abstract exchange value in the form of money in the short run. Those are two very, very different concepts. So, I mean, if we just look at, how can we change that? One, oikonomia is focused on something larger than the individual. Local economics is what we're going to argue that oikonomia, the concept of oikonomia, is much better represented by local economics than by globalized, the globalized economy we live in today. But local economics then is about producing, distributing, and maintaining concrete use values for more than one person, for the household, for the community. Whereas our economic theory of crematistics or globalization today is all revolves around the individual. How can individuals maximize their wealth at every and any cost? Another main difference between local economy or oikonomia and crematistics or globalization is that oikonomia is focused on the long run. How do we maintain use values of something for the long run? Whereas when we talk about maximizing profits, in the globalized economy of today, we only think in short term. If we take the example of the stock market, back in my, 50 years ago, when people made an investment in the stock market, the idea was that I'm going to invest some money every month, so that when I am 65 or 70, I can withdraw that money and hopefully the company I invested in had increased their value and I will be able to, have a little bit of retirement income. Today, 90% of the transactions that go on the stock market are not long-term investments. People are looking to invest very, very short-term, and even more, with the rise of these supercomputers, you have algorithms and these short-term fast investors who are investing in penny stocks, who are investing in everything in the investment. Sometimes, they buy and sell within the period of a couple seconds. And the entire idea is not about investing in the long-term wealth and well-being of a company. It's about maximizing profit at every and all cost. Who cares about what happens to the company, right? So let's look at a couple concrete examples of the differences between oikonomia and crematistics. So if we're going to look at the ideas of oikonomia as concrete use values over the long term, this first picture here on the left is a picture of a Chinese peasant in the 1850s, I think it was, when I took this off of. And she is back in early China. They had what was called night soil. And night soil was essentially, they hired certain people, mostly women, of course, to go around to all of the houses in a village in the evening, and they collected in these large buckets, basically buckets of human excrement. People didn't have flush toilets in that time. They had, pit toilets. And instead of just burying that, they would collect all of that, and these night soil carriers would take that and deposit it onto the fields where rice and barley was grown. So this is the second picture over on the right. This is an example of traditional rice cultivation in most parts of Asia. And one of the things that is unique about the Asian experience is that they've been able to farm the same soils for thousands of years without diminishing the fertility of those soils. And so you see that, they do all these different things about, barriers and terracing the land to avoid erosion. But then also for hundreds of years, thousands of years, Chinese peasants took the waste from their own body and took those nutrients and deposited it back onto the soil so that the soil would not deplete its fertility. And so we think about the soil as, something that we depend on for local economics, in this case, agrarian economics. They develop practices which might seem strange to us, carrying buckets of poop over to the fields, but it was something that was done in order to maintain the use value over the long term. Now let's compare these pictures to these pictures. These are two pictures of the 1930s in the Midwest of the United States, states like Kansas and Nebraska, Oklahoma. There was massive, massive dust storms. So these were, this traditional area of the Midwestern part of the United States was an area that had long been prairie, formed by the glacier formations over the past thousands and thousands of years. And they were left with topsoil that was hundreds of meters deep. It was just this massive wealth of soil. And over the period of a couple decades, settlers came in from the eastern part of the United States, started to plow up the prairie, plowed it up year after year after year. And then these dust storms happened, and they essentially turned this fertile oasis of beautiful prairie into a desert. And what happened was that, the thousands and hundreds of thousands of settlers who had located in this area were forced to leave, because what was left of them, they were essentially buried in sand. And that happened because there was no focus on oikonomia. There was no focus on local economics about how to maintain the soil fertility, which was the absolute most important factor for maintaining the long-term fertility of their agrarian enterprise. Rather, the farmers were interested in how can I exploit this land as much as possible, get as much money out of it as possible in the shortest amount of time. And what happened was essentially they destroyed the basis of their economy. Here's another example. This is a picture on the left here of a community forest managed by small farmers in the northern part of Guatemala. I used to work with them, and this massive forest, rainforest in the northern part of Guatemala, is essentially collectively owned by different community indigenous Mayan groups. And it's a beautiful forest. It's a mixed forest. There's these beautiful old growth trees, and the community protects it because they know that it is, an essential part of their livelihood. So this is a picture here of the community. This is an old mahogany tree that was starting to die. The community came in, marked it, and they eventually cut it down. They also have a small cooperative, mostly with young men and women who have been trained in how to make beautiful pieces of furniture. So here's an example of the different types of furniture that they make. And it's very, very high, added value using this beautiful, highly valuable resource of old growth tropical trees and turning that lumber into beautiful, high value furniture that they then sell in the cities. They maintain this forest. They understand that in order for their young people to make a living, to have a little bit of income, that depends on protecting the forest, on managing it in a way that the forest will continue to provide high quality lumber for many, many years. Now let's look at what happens here in crematistics, or what we consider to be traditional economic knowledge and logic today. Forestry companies do clear cuts. So what they're doing, most of the old growth forest, like what we see in this picture, is long gone. They plant quick growing monocultures of pine or fir, balsam fir trees. And then as soon as they reach, the minimum size in order to be processed, they come down, they cut them, and then they usually sell these logs for very low value products. For example, a lot of the timber in a part of Michigan where I grew up goes to paper factories where they make newspaper print, right? And this is an example of, from the forester's perspective, this is a way to maximize the amount of value at abstract exchange value. But what are the expenses of this? One, what happens is that this is an ecological devastation. You ruin a forest, you ruin the soil. You're obviously taking habitat away from other creatures, all in the name of trying to make more money. So this contradiction, or this contrast between local economy, oikonomia, and globalized economy in crematistics also has its biological counterparts. Humans, as a biological species, like every creature, we have the propensity to expand and grow and try and take advantage of the resources at our hands. So, for example, there's famous cases of reindeer populations that were introduced to some tiny island out in Alaska, and there had never been reindeer before, and there was this abundance of plant material that no other creature ate, and so the reindeer started to eat all of the plants until there was nothing left, and then, so their population went up and then dropped. And we have that same tendency to try and utilize the resources at our disposal. The difference between us and other creatures is that we have an ability to create cultures that try and slow down this tendency of ours to try and consume and consume and consume all of the resources. We have the ability to reflect, for example, as this community here in Guatemala did, that if I cut down all of these trees and sell them as quickly as possible, well, then the problem is going to be that we're not going to have anything to sustain us in the future. The reindeer populations on these tiny islands didn't have that ability to reflect on that, to think ahead. But we do, and traditional cultures around the world have created ways, to try and create cultural norms that allow us to exist and maintain, again, the concrete use over the long term of the resources we depend on. So, for example, this is a picture of a indigenous group in the Andes Mountains of Peru. These people live at an elevation of over 4,000 meters. It's essentially a high desert. It hardly ever rains. The temperatures are extreme. It's an area that most people would not be able to survive. It's a difficult area. Lack of water, aridity, harsh, high winds. But the indigenous Quechua and Aymara people have lived in these areas for thousands of years in a way, and they've developed cultural norms. They've developed different types of crops, different types of land use that have allowed them to survive in this extremely harsh condition for a long time. And that's the role of culture. It's the role of saying, look, we know that there are limits to these places that we live in. There are limits that we have to abide by. And so we need to find ways to develop economies, local economies that respect these limitations, right? Whereas the global economy we live in today wants nothing to do with restraint, wants nothing to do with limitations. It's all about maximizing wealth, maximizing money at every in an expense. So what happened to these local economies? What happened to the humanity used to inhabit all of these different bioregions, and every culture had their own way of trying to adapt to the conditions that they inherited. What happened to that? Why today, when we think of economy, do we think of something so vastly different, something so vastly changed? And I'm going to argue that what happened was that about 150 years ago, humanity accidentally almost stumbled upon a one-time windfall of energy surplus in the form of fossil fuels. Before the age of oil and coal and natural gas, we are very limited by our technologies. We were able to come up with very creative ways to take advantage of the natural world and create massive civilizations, but we were limited by that. We didn't have an absurd amount of energy. A lot of the famous monuments from ancient civilizations, the surplus energy that was used was slave labor. And we can criticize that, and we certainly should. But today we have our own types of slaves. Slavery is outlawed, as obviously it should be around the world. But today we have what a lot of people refer to as fossil slaves. And for example, 1 barrel of oil contains about 1,700 kilowatt hours of work potential. Compared to an average human being who's out there working in the fields, the average human being generates 0.6 kilowatt hours is generated. Considering that the current cost of oil is around $50 to $75, that means that 1 barrel of oil contains about 10.5 years of human labor equivalents. So every time we consume a barrel of oil, we're essentially getting 10 years of free labor. And that energy surplus, that influx of just this massive amount to transform our world, it drastically changed our economy. Because all of a sudden, for example, we're not tied to certain places. We're not tied to local economies anymore. We have the strength and the technology and the energy surplus that has allowed us to essentially do whatever we want. And so, over the last 150, 175 years since oil and coal and natural gas have come into the equation, we've essentially been able to turn all of these localized economies into a giant globalized economy. So our fossil slaves allow us to ignore and surpass the negative feedback loops that reality imposes. We no longer have to worry about, for example, peasants that live on the top of a mountain have to worry about taking advantage, of the conditions, or those traditional Chinese peasants that we talked about taking night soil. A lot of times those traditional practices are being interrupted and replaced because now fossil fuels allow us to make artificial fertilizers, right? And so now we can just depend on that, and so we don't have to maintain these practices that allowed us to subsist in place. And over time, this has turned into the modern science of economics. So economics today is no longer about caring for our places, maintaining the concrete use terms, which is what local economy was always about, but rather it's about supply and demand on the global level, perfect and imperfect competition, taxation levels, international trade, price controls, monetary policies, exchange rates, interest rates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these terms in modern day global economics fundamentally forget the reality that every economy exists within a larger Earth system. That was something that we couldn't forget, 100 years ago, because we lived in Earth systems. We depended on what the Earth gave. And today, because of the role of fossil fuels, we simply are able to ignore that. And I'm going to argue here that those are that because of that, there's lots of negative consequences. So, what are some of the results? First of all, ecological overshoot. A lot of people talk about, oh, the main problem with fossil fuels is global climate change. And obviously, I think the news came out yesterday that yesterday was the hottest day on average ever recorded for Earth temperatures. So obviously, climate change is happening, is serious, but I think there's a very real damage in reducing all of the ecological turmoil we're facing just to one issue, which is excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Ecological overshoot says, look, it goes farther than that. Because of the excess of energy that we have, obviously we're burning energy, we're putting fossil fuels in the atmosphere, we're putting not fossil fuel, we're putting carbon dioxide and methane and other gases into the atmosphere. But besides that, because we have all this energy, we're extracting more and more and more of the resources that Earth has. So, for example, ecological overshoot occurs when the demands made on the natural ecosystem exceed its regenerative capacity. And all of this happens is we're ruining topsoil faster than it can replace. We are obviously taking minerals and metals and all of these other things that we mine for much faster than they can ever create. Um, Another result of the fossil fuel revolution is that there's a divorce of economics from the management of our household. Again, like I said, economy has nothing to do with localized systems today. Our economic system is too large. The negative feedback loops are too distant, and we have lost control over the ability to make any sort of meaningful change to the system. We simply cannot manage our household. And so I would make the argument, and we talk about global economy today, it's not an economic system, it's an uneconomic system, right? Um, so if those are some of the issues, how is a local economy different? We talked about some old time examples. Going back to old time China, we talked about maybe a couple of examples of small scale peasants in the rainforests in Guatemala. But how is a local economy, or economia, how is it fundamentally different from the global economic behemoth that we see today? This picture here is a picture here in the community where I live in El Salvador. Um, we about 8 years ago started a small ecotourism cooperative with our neighbors, and we live right in front of the El Salvador's tallest mountain. So tourists mostly from the city come up here every weekend to get away from the heat and to experience the mountain and walk up the mountain. And we decided we were going to build some cabins to try and host those tourists. And we're thinking about, so how can we build those cabins? In modern day economics, what most people would do is we would go to the hardware store, we would buy some blocks, some cement, some metal roofing, and we would build those houses. Now, all of those materials, the cement blocks, obviously the cement, the metal, we have no idea where that comes from. The cement was probably mined from far ways away. It was transformed by some big company. The metal, the steel that was used for roofing, we have no idea. All of that depends on this global economic system where we really can't control the results of that. But we decided that we wanted to use local materials as much as possible. So we began a process together with our neighbors where we started building local cabins made out of wood that we cut down from the forests around us and from mud. It's a type of building technique called cob or super adobe. And we were able to build around 8 very unique cabins, very aesthetically pleasing and creative, all from local materials. And the reason that we did that was that we wanted, our ecotourism cooperative to really reflect what a local economy would be like. For example, as we built these cabins, we were able to see the effects, of what happened. We didn't want to cut down, the nicest trees or the biggest trees. We cut down the trees that were showing signs of disease. We cut down trees in areas that was overpopulated with trees. We harvested the mud, the main building material from around the areas we had been excavating where we were going to build the houses. And essentially, we were able to build these really unique cabins without any sort of ecological damage. And so the principles of local economy, I'm going to name 4 different principles that I think are important for us to think about. The first one is proximity, or closeness, is another word you could say that. And so the idea of a local economy, an oikonomia, is that the raw materials and the manufacturing and distribution processes of those materials and the economic goods that are produced, that we depend on, need to be close enough to our livelihoods so that we can see and feel and experience both the social and the ecological effects of the procurement, manufacture, and distribution of those processes. What does that mean? That means, for example, if I was going to build a really nice cabin and I was going to depend on cement and cinder blocks and steel roofing, I really have no idea how those materials were procured, how they were manufactured. I can imagine that there were probably local communities who suffered, because of, for example, the mining of the steel, the mining of the cement, and all of those materials that are needed. But because I live so far away, I really don't know. I have no idea. Uh, with local, I mean, the same thing we can say, for example, about food. The vast majority, if sit down and have food every morning, that's shipped in from all over the world. And we really can't say that we know, in what conditions that food was produced. How many small farmers were paid a miserable wage for that food? How many young children were intoxicated by the use of, massive amounts of agrochemicals that accumulated in their soils, that seeped into the groundwater. The thing is that if you're not close enough, if there's not an ethic of proximity to the place, it's very difficult to see and feel and experience those ecological effects. Local economies, on the other hand, require proximity, right? And not just in the process of making, but also in the waste. So what
Hello,
happens to the?
Tobias Roberts. This is
Yeah.
Dr. Lambert. Could
Hey,
you could you open up the presentation? So one of the students was saying that if you could open it up so it could be read easier.
is that better?
There you go. Perfect.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Lambert. Yeah. So I was saying also, likewise, the waste streams, the waste that is produced by economic consumption, also we need to be close enough to that. So one of the biggest examples that I think happens is nuclear power in the United States. Obviously we know that nuclear power, leaves toxic waste, things that are filled with radiation. And one of the areas where that toxic waste is deposited is underneath a huge mountain in Arizona, which is the ancestral territory of a Hopi community, which is an indigenous community there. So every time that huge amounts of people in the United States turn on their lights or heat their homes or whatever they might do, if that energy is coming from nuclear power plants in the region, then the waste of that is being buried on the ancestral lands of an indigenous group. And again, I mean, it's hard for us to know exactly where all of the waste that we create goes to, due to the global economy we live in. With local economies, the idea is that you know what happens. And so, for example, if let's say that I'm not taking care of the waste from my bathrooms and I'm just simply throwing all of that into the local stream that passes next to my house, my neighbor who lives below me is obviously not going to be very happy about that, right? They're not going to be happy about me throwing something that could potentially sicken themselves and their family into a river that they use. And they, the community can come and say, hey, you need to do something about this. Otherwise, we're going to fine you. Otherwise, we're going to do something to change that. Local economies, because of that principle of proximity, allow that to happen. So again, proximity compels an ethic of protecting which we care about, eliminating the tendency to accept in externalities, and avoiding the comfort of simply outsourcing the morality of our consumption. We have to be responsible for what we consume and the waste that we create. A second principle of local economies is less complexity and more elegance. In the history of civilizations, the more complex a society or an economy becomes, the more vulnerable it was to collapse. So, for example, we look at the ancient Mayan kingdoms. The Mayan people existed for thousands of years, but the large cities like Tikal and some of these other famous places essentially collapsed because they concentrated way too many people in one small area. And then there's issues of maybe they weren't able to grow enough food. They had to go farther and farther away from the city center to procure what they needed for their populations. And eventually it just became too complex and it broke down. This picture here on the left, on the right, is a picture. I don't know if you all remember a news story a couple of years ago. There was a huge ship, a cargo ship, that was crossing the Suez Canal, and something happened with the winds, and it blew it sideways, and these massive ships essentially got stuck, and it blocked the Suez Canal. And they weren't able, they didn't know what, I mean, things are massive, and they didn't know how to get rid of it, how to unblock it. And essentially, that one small event blocked global trade for several weeks. And there were all of these supply line issues where people depend on the constant movement of goods from one part of the world to the other part of the world, and just one ship that gets blown sideways caused this massive disruption. And that's because our supply lines of the global economy are extremely complex. Elegance, when we talk about local economies, is about how can we try and be elegant and be creative in supplying our needs, procuring our needs as local as possible, so that we don't have to worry about what happens if a big massive tanker ship gets blown across the Suez Canal. We should, with local economies, those vulnerabilities are reduced. There's more resiliency because we're able to procure things, on as local a level as possible. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get everything we need within, a 1 mile radius. Local economies can be larger. We can talk about local economy in the sense of, a state or a bioregion, whatever. But the idea is that the less that we depend on things of outside, the more elegant our culture can become. And the idea of elegance in local economy comes from a writer from the UK that I would recommend to everyone, called David Fleming. And David Fleming says that the property of small scale subdivided systems which do not need the complication of large scale infrastructure. And large scale infrastructure is this right here. When you need massive amounts of cargo ships, when you need huge energy grids, when you need enormous amounts of fossil fuel inputs just to keep the thing moving. That's complex. That's complicated. An elegant system is one that doesn't need that. Again, he also said, this is a quote from him: elegance is, when a self-reliant community, being substantially free of the complications of the large scale, has economies of reduced scale. Material needs can be exchanged, and the waste they produce can be recycled on the proximity principle. Work is done close to where its output is wanted. Waste is produced close to where it can be recycled. That's what local economies are about. Local economies are about how can we create production, manufacturing, distribution in an enclosed geographical area, in a way that we can try and meet our own needs without destroying the resource base upon which we depend. The third principle of local economies is appropriate scale. When we talk about scale in global economics, everybody talks about economies of scale, doing things bigger, specialization. Try to make as much as you can of one thing. Appropriate scale in local economies, however, here's a quote from Wendell Berry: our understandable wish to preserve the planet must somehow be reduced to our competence, that is, to wish to preserve all of its humble households and neighborhoods. Appropriate scale is about developing an economy that responds to the local needs, to the local conditions. The principle of appropriate scale contradicts the growth imperative of modern day economy. There is a right size for every endeavor, and that needs to be dictated by the community, the biophysical reality of the region, and the health and well-being of the whole. Going back to this picture here, the small indigenous community in the highlands of the Andes Mountains, they know very well that there's an appropriate scale, for example, for how many alpacas and llamas they can raise, which is one of their main sources of wealth. They know that if they have these massive herds of animals, they're going to essentially turn their very delicate ecosystem into a wasteland, into a desert. They know that if they grow quinoa, which is one of their main crops that does very well in a high desert region, if they grow that crop, beyond a certain scale, then the soil fertility is going to be lost. But they understand the appropriate scale because of having lived in a certain place for a long time and learning what that place, allows for. So yeah, we have proximity, the ethic of proximity. We have the ethic of elegance and not relying on these complex systems. We have the principle of correct scale or appropriate scale. And lastly, local economies focus first on self-sufficiency and subsistence. That doesn't mean that there is no trade, that there is no, any sort of production for outside, but local economies first exist to try and provide for their own needs, and then the excedent is what gets traded, exported, whatever it might be. And that's a huge difference than what happens today. In most places here in Central America where I live, small communities are encouraged by governments to focus just on one crop. So, for example, here in El Salvador, where I live, the main export crop is sugarcane, and we produce massive amounts of sugarcane on the best agricultural soils. And the idea is that we then export that to the United States, and the money that comes back, we essentially buy food that's imported from the rest of the world. Local economies would be different. It's like, okay, we can grow a little bit of sugarcane, for our own consumption. What's left over, we're also going to grow other stuff. We're going to grow, on these great soils, grow, the basics that we need to feed our local population. Um, and then whatever excedent we have, we can try and export and instead of just focusing on one place. Um, so yeah, this local economies that focus on local sufficiency means that there's going to be an abundance of skill. Communities, where 90% of deployment is to one corporation. That's what happens in many of these places. Most people are simply doing one thing over and over again. With local economies, you need lots of different people doing lots of different things. Local economies generally have more skill. People have a wide variety of different things that they do. Um, Let me see real quick my time. What time is it? Oops. Okay, we still got about 15 minutes. So I want to end with two quick examples, and I want to kind of explore these because I think that the examples that because a lot of people, we don't really understand what local economies are because over the past 150 years or so, because of the influx of an energy surplus from fossil fuels, the idea of economy has so vastly shifted that most people don't have any real experience with local economy, right? But here's an example. So where I grew up in Kentucky in the United States, which is kind of a rural area. And around where I lived, there was lots and lots of Amish communities. The Amish are a kind of a religious group. They moved to the United States back in the 1600s, fleeing persecution from Europe. But one of the things that's interesting about them is part of their religious belief is that they are very, very separated from the rest of the country. They have their own communities, and they in general, reject most of the technologies that we consider today with modernity. So, for example, Amish communities certainly don't have any electricity in their homes. Amish communities, for example, also reject automobiles and other types of transportation. And one of the most visible, and when you look at them, when you go and visit an Amish community, they have a lot. Most of them are farmers. You feel like you're traveling back in time. In fact, they don't even. Most of them don't speak English as their primary language. They speak Old German, which is a dialect from the 1600s. And it seems like you're traveling back in time, right? But one of the things that most people see them as this fringe community of kind of weirdos, right? But they also, one of the things that's interesting is that the Amish are one of the most economically sound communities in the United States. So there's very, very little poverty in Amish communities. They might not have electricity, but that's by choice. A lot of times, Amish businesses are extremely, wealthy and well-to-do. And I want to take an example of the Amish horse and buggy. So one of the things that when you see the Amish community, the first thing that pops out is that, well, they don't use cars, and you see all of these people, riding around in horse and buggies, kind of like from the 1800s. And that's a decision. They have the money. If they wanted to buy a car and a truck or whatever, they could do that. But I think that the Amish communities come together every year, and they talk about what technologies they're going to accept and what technologies they don't want to accept. And these discussions that they have are based on what is going to be best for our community, what's going to be best for our local economy. So let's take the example of an Amish horse and buggy and an internal combustion engine from a car, a tractor, whatever it might be. So, for example, let's take that first principle, proximity. In order to feed a horse that's going to allow you to move, what you need is grass. Horses have these magnificent little stomachs that transfer grass into this enormous amount of energy. Grass can be grown almost anywhere. And the communities in Kentucky and other Amish communities are able to essentially grow all of the fuel that they need for their transportation around their homes. Gasoline, on the other side, on the other case, we have no idea, where most of it comes from. It has to be perhaps, dug up from some oil field in Saudi Arabia. It's then shipped by these massive tankers to some place where it's refined. It's then turned into gasoline and shipped again by land to the nearest gas station. Then we take that gas and we burn it, creating all of these other externalities in the forms of greenhouse gases that are pumped into the atmosphere. The proximity principle means that because these communities choose a form of locomotion, a form of transportation that can be procured locally. The same thing, obviously, the cars, the metal, the rubber, all of the things that go into cars, we have no idea where that comes from. We can have very limited, amounts of responsibility towards that. Whereas, the Amish can provide their fuel based in a healthy way by growing grass and putting the cows on pasture, right? The second principle, elegance, not having to depend on these massive and long and complex supply lines. With a horse and buggy system, you're essentially able to recycle the waste into the system. So after the horse eats the grass and gets the energy it needs to move, horse and buggy from one to the next, it's excrement, it's poop essentially goes back into the soil, creating further soil fertility. Whereas, like we said, the the wastes from cars, from an internal combustion engine, turns into further global warming. Correct scale. When you travel by horse and buggy, there's a limit to how far you can go. You get into a car, and 24 hours later you can be on the other side of the country. You can travel from Florida to California in 24 hours or 36 hours or whatever it might be. With a horse and buggy, you're limited by that. And most people might see that as a limitation. The Amish, however, see that as something good. That maintains their community close knit. That means that if they need to travel somewhere to procure something for whatever they need for their farm, for their local economy, they can only go so far. And they're a community that doesn't shop online. They don't go onto Amazon to try and find whatever they need. They try and procure what they need locally, right? Sufficiency. This is a big one. The Amish. I talked with an Amish friend once, and one of the reasons I asked him, why do you guys still use horse and buggy? And he said, well, think about it. If we were to use cars, yeah, young people might get excited. It's kind of new and innovating, and it's exciting. But that will cancel out. If everybody in our community started using cars, that would drastically erase an enormous amount of jobs for young people in our community. So young Amish men, mostly, they are the ones that raise the horses. A lot of small Amish farmers who don't have enough grass. Young men also can create hay and sell hay during the wintertime. There are also people who make horseshoes. There are people who train the horses. There are local craftsmen who make the buggies. There's an enormous amount of work that's involved in maintaining, maintaining and creating a horse and buggy. As soon as you turn to cars, all of those jobs, all of those local sources of employment are gone. And so you're not creating local sufficiency in terms of employment, but rather outsourcing that to other places. And lastly, there's an ethic of an intentional efficiency. When you transport yourself by horse and buggy, when you till your fields with a horse instead of a tractor, you're going to be moving slower. You're going to have less horsepower. There's going to be less production. And the Amish don't necessarily argue this, but I think that the idea of intentional inefficiencies, that obviously goes against traditional wisdom today. But intentional inefficiency is unique in that we consume too much. Our growth economy is growing too fast. A lot of people have now started talking about degrowth, and local economies can allow us to accept harder work, accept slower outcomes, in the name of trying to protect the places that we need to protect. And so that's just one example of how local economies might work, might look. Let's see if I can get the next one here. So here's another one. Okay, local economies might work for Amish people who want to ride in horse and buggies. But Wendell Berry, going back to Wendell Berry, he has another quote, and he says, "You might need a large corporation to run an airline, to manufacture cars, but you don't need a large corporation to raise a chicken, to raise a hog. You don't need a large corporation in the global economy to process local food or local timber to market it locally. So we think about local economy, where can we start? Those of us who were not born into Amish communities, those of us who realistically are not going to go back to driving in horse and buggies. How can we rescue these values of local economy? And Wendell Berry says, look, let's start with what can be produced and distributed and consumed locally. So, for example, airlines, a small community, we probably don't have the know-how, we don't have the resources to do that. But food, timber, in almost every part of the world, you can grow food. So, example, one of the things that's starting to pop up that's becoming popular, partly for health reasons, partly for environmental reasons, is the idea of local food. We can grow, healthy, wholesome food in almost every different climate and every different bioregion around the world. So, if we talk about, buying our food from a local farmers market or participating in a a CSA, a consumer supported agriculture, or if we're just simply going to look for local farmers, try and purchase local meals at the market. Um, by knowing your producer, in by buying local food, we can see the effects of that production. If one of the local farmers is using extremely harmful pesticides or herbicides that we know are cancer-causing agents, well, we can decide not to purchase from him and support a different consumer, right? Or we can ask him, hey, how about can you try and transition to more organic methods? Elegance. Local food economies have limited intermediate infrastructure. When you take some vegetables grown at a local farm, you might need a small car or small truck to transport them from that place to the market. But you don't need planes and massive cargo ships, to transfer the food that we eat from Mexico to the United States, from Thailand to Europe, whatever it might be. By consuming locally, you reduce the complexity of the food system. Um, Sufficiency. Let's provide for those closest first. So local farmers can say, I'm going to produce enough food for my family and for my local community. If I still have an excellent, then I can look about exporting farther away. And lastly, the idea of additional intentional efficiency. Small farming, there's all these different studies that we talked about last time we were here. Small farming can be incredibly helpful to the local environment. Small farmers generally treat their soil better. And it's the idea of using a strong back and a hoe instead of a backhoe, instead of using, massive machinery inputs that can cause, pretty, all sorts of damage in terms of soil structure, soil fertility, working slower with your own body to create healthy foods. That's an example. So, another example, like we were talking about local economy that embodies these different principles we've talked about is just that the local food economy can produce healthy inputs at a minimal ecological cost while producing local jobs for local people. So those are those two quick examples. I want to end real quick with one short video, which I usually do. And this is going to introduce another, I think maybe trying to respond to this quote from Wendell Berry. Okay, so local economy might work for small groups, for example, like the Amish or indigenous people living in the Andes Mountains. Local economy might work for certain types of production, for example, local food. But what about other things, right? What about, all these other inputs that modernity has come to expect? And there's a movement called the circular economy, which I think is very tied to the idea of local economy. And circularity is about trying to bring some of the ethics and the principles of local economy into production on a larger scale. So I want to introduce you real quick to this concept. It's about a 3-minute video, and then after that, I'll be done. So here we go.
Living systems have been around for a few billion years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food, energy is provided by the sun, things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components, and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, no resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers, and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long-term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
Okay, well, that's it for my presentation there. It's about 8:50. It's got 10 minutes left. I would love to hear from any of you all. Open up for some time for some questions. If anybody has any, I'll leave Dr. Lambert if you'd like to ask anybody if they have any questions or comments, or if you're in disagreement.
Tobias, we have Salisu, and go ahead, Salisu.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Salisu Badamasi, a Nigerian, but currently in Berlin. This is a very, very interesting topic, and I want to thank and appreciate the presenter. Anytime you are presenting, you are really taking me back home to my grassroots, you know, to remember what my father used to teach us and take us to farm. So my question here is that, how do governments try to bridge the gap whereby farmers suffers, you know, supply chain, less in terms of fertilizer, you know, road construction, you know, because it is obvious that the whole nation or a nation feed from what the farmers produce. So, you know, what is your advice for government official or government agencies, you know, to really recognize these farmers that feed the nation, you know, in a situation whereby countries try to undermine these farmers from these rural villages like the one you show where they don't use cars, they don't use whatever, but they still feed America, for example, or feed America to some percentage. So that is my question, please. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Saliso, thank you. I guess I would say that your question is, I think, how, what types of government policies can try to stimulate local economies, right? Especially local agrarian economies. And I think that's important to start with. Like before we start thinking about how we can create local economies around manufacturing, I think it's good to start with farming because everybody eats, and that's the basis of life, right? We got to start with that. And there was a policy a couple of years ago here in El Salvador. So here in all of the public schools, up from first grade to ninth grade, the government provides free lunches or free like snacks for all of the children. That's something that I think happens in most schools, kind of like a free lunch program. And one of the things that not this government, but the last government did was that they made a policy where all of that food stuff that was going to be produced by, that was going to be given to local schools, had to come from local farmers. So, for example, in the village where I live, the local school was mandated by law to work with local farmers. To purchase beans, to purchase vegetables, to purchase corn, in order to use their in order to feed the local schools. That's a small scale policy. It's not a huge amount, but it's something that starts. It's a way to use government incentive, government money to support local economies. And so, the government can decide about where they're going to purchase that food, where they're going to, give free meals, free school meals. And I think similar policies like that, I think you can come up with that. You need to be creative. I'm not a politician, but I think politicians need to be more creative about how exactly they can stimulate local agrarian economies. How can they create? A lot of times, I think it's about stimulating local markets. In the village, in the town that I live in, we don't have a market, and that seems ridiculous to me, right? There has to be the infrastructure first of all for local economies, local agrarian economies to take off. In lots and lots of places in San Salvador, which is the main city, we don't have any. There might be a supermarket nearby, but there's not a local market, where farmers can go in and sell their produce. And so I think, prior to prioritizing, these infrastructure, prioritizing policies, that allow for local production, that give commercialization spaces for local farmers, that in itself is a stimulus for people to produce more food. If local farmers know that there's a local area where they can sell their food, they're going to be more stimulus to grow that, right? And so those are just a few ideas that pop into mind.
Thank you so much.
Excellent, Tobias. We have Dr. Francis Maina next. Go ahead, Dr. Francis.
Thanks a lot. Actually, this topic is very, very dear to my heart, because what I know is that it's not governments which normally has to come up with initiative. For example, like at my place, I've not bought food for the last 6 months. And all I have done, I've taken some garden bags, put some soil and some manure, and then a little water every day, and I get fresh fruit. Vegetables every day. Then the other local people have also started taking it up. Actually, it's not for the government to provide us with the food. It's ourselves using this local economy to see how much you can be able to give and how much you can be able to grow using the little you have. Because I think it's a question of asking yourself, how much food do you eat per day? Can you be able to produce it in where your environment is? Because I think that is the way. The other thing is coming just a question of energy, because it's a very interesting topic. You go and find that in Africa, all the minerals come from Africa, but there's practically no manufacturing. The amount of renewable energy we have in Africa, if you are going to shift the manufacturing, which is in Northland, and is taken back to Africa, then we can be able to use renewable energy. We can be able to deplete we can be able to sink the carbon. So I think this is a very, very important thing that we start now we start living like the Amish, that we can be able, wherever we are, we can be able to grow our own food, have food security, and then we try to see the manufacturing, because like now we have got the problems because of this climate change, that our livers have got very little water. But if we are to make sure that we bring manufacturing to Africa using renewable energy, then we can be able to deplete the carbon dioxide, and then we have a sink, and then and that's where the local materials are. So I tend to think that we need a shift, a paradigm shift, a mindset, that we can be able to provide our own food. We don't have to wait for the government. We don't have to wait for the government policies. It is for us to ask ourselves, what can we be able to do for our community? Thanks a lot. That's my take.
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, I agree. I think we talked about this in the last class, but I think one of the myths that exists around local economies is this idea that if we just focus on what we can produce or manufacture locally, then we're on a pathway towards poverty and scarcity. And like I said, I think that's a myth, because I think once people actually start to farm again and use local resources, a lot of times people are astounded by how much abundance, how much food you can produce, how many different products we can make. And I think the same thing can be said, for small scale manufacturing. We might think, well, we need the global economy so that we can have this and this and this and this and all of these different things. One, I think we probably need to consume a lot less. But secondly, on a local scale, I think it's pretty amazing what, all of these, the diversity of items and consumer products you can create. The Amish communities, you go into an Amish community and they have, for example, they're also famous for furniture. They make some of the finest furniture you can see. Have the, beautiful craftsmen making all of these different metal objects, making, different crafts for their farming. I think the more that we rescue the principles behind local economy, the more that we're going to start to find, all of these great things that we can create locally. And if there are things that we need and require that can't be created in our local economy, how can we introduce ideas of circularity into a larger scale economy that rescue the same values of protecting the resource base, not creating externalities that are going to cause problems for other people or for future generations, right?
Tobias, I see that there's many more questions left, but we're actually at the end of the hour. What do you want to do? Do you want to give your email and have them contact you directly with their questions? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, I don't mind going for a couple minutes if you all have a couple extra minutes. But if there are questions that we don't get to, yeah, I can put my email here in the chat.
Because
I'll
there
do that
are
right
like,
now.
there's what, six hands raised, and I see another question in chat. So it's like 7, 8, 9 questions out there.
Yeah, so I can, I don't know if you guys have a pretty strict time, but I'd be willing to go for another 10, 15 minutes, or I just sent my email address here to the chat. If anybody would like to send me a more personalized question, I would love to.
Did you send it to a particular person? I don't actually see it in chat. So you have to make sure you send it to everyone.
Yeah, I'll do that again here. There we go.
There.
Yeah, we can see it. Tobias, so if then you can grant us then 10 more minutes, as you mentioned, and let's go then with Obafemi. So Obafemi, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, Tobias. To be candid, it's like this is one of the best I've ever heard in lectures. I want to just say that we have gone far from nature, and I'm wondering how we can retrace our steps to accomplish what you have just recommended here. What was even much more shocking is the fact that right in the midst of the Americas, something like what you describe in Amish is happening. So I'm just wondering, how can we pursue this closeness to nature in this world we're in now, maybe without disrupting something somehow. I'm just looking at the best way to pursue that, the best strategy to adopt. That's my question, Dr. Tobias. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, that's not easy. Like how how can we extract ourselves from all of the temptations and addictions that come with the global economy? Because I'll be honest, it's nice. There are certainly, temptations that come that I can get on my computer and log on to Amazon.com and purchase anything I want from any part of the world. If I have the money. uh, Obviously, there's an enormous environmental and social cost to that model, the economic model. In my own personal case, I think that a lot of people that I know are returning to nature or are returning to a more localized form of economy, because I think that a lot of us have some sort of inherent understanding that this isn't normal, that this isn't sustainable over the long term. We're starting to, the effects of a globalized economic model based on consumerism, based on just having everything all the time at our fingertips are starting to be seen, right? We can't ignore them. Yesterday was the hottest day ever recorded in terms of average global temperature. This is going to continue. There's going to be more effects, peak oil, global climate change, biodiversity loss, soil depletion. The list goes on and on. I think people are starting to wake up to that. And I think for those of us who have children, or those of us who think about future generations, it's like, okay, going back to local economy, it makes more sense. If I can procure what I need, then, if there is a massive collapse, if the system does no longer function as we've come to expect it to, how can I be sure that I'm going to be able to provide for myself and my family? So I think there are a lot of people who worry about those things and see, a bigger form of localism, of localized economy as something that's a more sane approach, right? So I mean, that's what I think. In terms of politics, there's very few political parties, I think, that opt for that, because there's still a huge part of the population that is tempted by this economic model that gives us everything. And I think for me, trying to make ever more clear to people that we can't continue this. This isn't sustainable. We're walking blindly into a disaster. We need to open up our eyes and try and figure out. And I think the obvious response to that, like I said, is return to more localized forms of economy. Grow your own food. Get to know your neighbors. Support local industries, local manufacturing. Try to find ways to subsist as well as you can within the place that you're fortunate enough to live. Right.
Thank you, Tobias. We have Charles Yame. So please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, and thanks to Tobias for a wonderful presentation. Mine is more of a comment than a question. I am from Nigeria, but currently in the Republic of Ireland. I know the Nigeria's economy was largely agriculturally based until the discovery of oil, which brought quick money, more money, but with devastating consequences and also a lot of corruption accompanying that. But few governments that have tried to bring people back, to that era of agriculture whereby you grow what you eat and eat what you grow, are met with a lot of resistance by a lot of the people themselves, because they are so dependent on food that has been imported into the country and other kinds of products. So sometimes it's not just, like the second speaker said, it's not just about the government, but about ourselves. Are we ready to embrace that change and begin to do something positive to return, to those paths that will, help us and also help the environment as well? Thank you.
Yes, I agree 100%. It's not just political in nature. There's also cultural, individual issues that need to be worked out. And like I said, every one of us has been alive. We were born into what I mentioned, that one-time windfall of energy surplus, which is fossil fuels. It's amazing to think that 150 years ago, people, there was changes in life, right? But there weren't these massive changes. The quickness and pace of change of technology and energy surplus is something that's relatively recent, right? But we were born into that. That's what shaped our outlook. And so I think, for a lot of people, the idea of going back is seen as negative, is seen as something to be avoided. And I think it's necessary not to look at it as a step backward, as something going back into a distant past where people were poor and suffering. No, so there's also a lot of good. The Amish communities, for example, the suicide rate of the Amish young people is non-existent, whereas drug use is almost non-existent, as opposed to, for example, traditional young people in the United States, where drug use, where depression, mental health issues are extremely high. So I think you start looking at, you can live well, and there are issues of happiness and fulfillment that can be found by returning to, more localized economies and localized subsistence, right?
Thank you, Tobias. Maybe we
Tobias,
have,
just a quick question.
time for
Do you
one more.
think
Sure.
do you think in like 50 years when oil starts to run out, we're all heading in this direction anyways?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mentioned, Dr. Lambert. I do think that there is an inevitability almost to the fact that there needs to be a contraction of our economy. Like I said, there's a lot of hope that and a lot of discourse about how renewable energy is going to be able to replace the carbon sources of energy that we've relied on. And I think that's true to a sense, but I don't think it's that we expect that every year we're going to have more energy, more energy, more energy. That's simply, it's kind of foolish, right? You can't have unlimited growth in any system where there is limited resources, right? And our planet is finite. There is not an unlimited amount of oil. There's also not an unlimited amount of lithium for batteries or steel for cars or whatever. There are limitations. And so it's about, using a little bit of foresight. Okay, so if there are limitations, we need to change the economic model that assumes that there are not. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to say, look, so a lot of people talk about the difference between collapse and planned degrowth. And I think those are two good. We don't necessarily have to have this Hollywood-esque type of collapse, where everything goes to hell and there's civil wars going on and people are fighting each other in the streets. That's what we see in the movies. But we could go the other way. We could think about how to plan our degrowth, use the time that we still have to try and reduce our demands on local ecosystems, to try and create more resilient local economies. That is a possibility. It's out there, something that is happening on small scale. And as well, just using a little bit of foresight. Look, we can't have everything all the time at our fingertips. That's just not realistic, And so if we care about our futures, the futures of our children and future generations, how can we try to degrow, create more resilient local economies that are going to be able to withstand, some of the very real challenges that we're going to be facing in the coming years.
If I may, just many countries around the world don't have enough youth now because of their demographics. But if you go to a country like Nigeria, they have plenty of youth. They still have that pyramid type of view of their population as they go from older to younger. So the younger population is still healthy and abundant. So unemployment is an issue. The local economy, can this solve the unemployment issue for the younger generations? And like in Nigeria?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in local economies, when you look at like countries like Japan and things like that, I think it's common that there is a lack of young people, but I think a lot of it is because you don't have local economies. Local economies are generally agrarian. There's a huge focus on growing things, and you need labor for that, right? And you need good, young, strong people to do things. And I think in local economies, the issue of not having a pyramid type of demographic structure, I think kind of works itself out because people understand that if we're going to produce locally, we need people to produce that, right? And so I think that there is, an opportunity for that. And a lot of times countries like Nigeria or Central America, where I'm from, where we still have large young bases. One of the things that affects my country, El Salvador here, is that so many young people migrate to the United States. And I think you feel that. For example, here in the little community where I live, there is a lack of young farmers because a lot of young people decide to go to the United States, and that affects our local economy. And that's what I think, if we can go back to creating spaces where young people can have dignified employment opportunities. So we'll go back to the Amish. Young people raise horses, raise hay, fix make horseshoes, fix the buggies. All of that creates, local sources of employment while also responding to the need of transportation in a local level, right?
Okay, Leonardo, who's
Yes.
next?
We have Mr. Lerato, and actually we just hit the 10-minute mark um, above the hour, so maybe that's perhaps the last question for Tobias, and then we will be transitioning to you, correct, Dr. Lambert?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Lerato, then please go ahead, and thanks, Tobias. Go ahead, Lerato.
Hello, thank you, thank you. For me, this is only a comment, actually, because we've said so much, and I was going to say a few of what has already been said, but I was just saying to Dr. Tobias that sometimes I wonder why there seems to be some disconnect between societies and governments. On one hand, you hear people say, we cannot do this, we cannot do that because government doesn't help us to do that. On the other hand, you hear government saying it's because societies don't want to do this, don't want to plow, don't want to do agriculture, farming and all that. So now I'm wondering to myself, what is it that has to be done in order to connect these two groups? Because we all need to do something, both governments and also us as people. I think this is what I wanted to address it and find out what is it that needs to be done, because we do know. I've grown up hearing people talk about environment, about this, about that. But even today, as I am, nothing has been done, or little, if anything, if at all. What is it that we have to do in order to connect the two so that we can move on to a better future? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lerato. I think that's a good kind of way to wrap up the conversation, right? How, it's not about waiting for governments to act, especially, most governments around the world are are focused on, competing in the global economy in which we live, and are unfocused on supporting local economies. But at the same time, a lot of people are not focused on returning to local economies as well. But I think that's a challenge we have, right? That's the and like I said earlier, I think that it's going to become more and more imperative as time goes along. But then also, I think one of the things that's hopeful is that generally people are happier in places of local economy. For example, if you go to the grocery store, uh, most people are on their phones. They're not really talking to each other. They get what they need. They go through the checkout line, give them the money, and then they leave. And there's very little human interaction. It seems like, just a task that you do. You go to a farmer's market or a local market, on the other hand, and you get to know, the local farmer or the local vendor. You see friends. A lot of times farmers markets have, different cultural activities. I think local economies also allow to bring a little more humanity back into our economic relations, right? And I think that creates happiness, that creates fulfillment for people. And even if local economies mean that we might have to do without certain things, that there are going to be certain limitations on what we can access. I think that the happiness of human relationships, of getting to know your community, of participating, kind of offsets whatever things we might lose. And I think if governments and individuals can see that and sense that, we can create policies and make lifestyle changes that hopefully will allow for local economies to arise, right? So I thank everybody for, you guys are great, great questions, great participation. I really enjoy hearing people's feedback, and it gives me hope as well that we can make these transitions. So thank you all very much, and that'll be it for me.
Thank you, Tobias, for being with us today. Hopefully we'll see you soon again with another presentation. As we mentioned,
Tobias Roberts, what topic would you talk about next time?
Well, actually, I was looking at, I have another topic coming up, but I saw that somebody mentioned in the chat, circular economy. I kind of very, very briefly mentioned that. I would love to do a whole course on circularity in the economy. I think that's a fascinating place to start, and we can look at that. So if that's something that we can discuss that in the future.
Excellent. That's a great topic. Leonardo?
yes.
Go ahead,
Perfect.
I guess.
No,
Are we-
that's pretty much a wrap up. I'm transitioning the presentation to you. What I will be doing though is I just typed Tobias email in our chat, so it's fresh in the comments section for those that still have some doubts that want to refer to him. Tobias, again, thank you very much for being with us today. And I don't know if Mr. Lambert then will have some extra information about the assignment he shared earlier in the presentation during the chat. So Dr. Lambert, all yours. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, Tobias Roberts. You are free to go. And thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again.
All right, take care.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Lambert. So I'll be here if you have questions about courses, how to gain credits, how to move forward towards your graduations. Is anybody graduating this month or within like the next 2 or 3 months? You see a show of hands. Anybody close? Okay, so keep working, keep getting those credits, studying. You have all the tools you need. Okay, so questions. We'll start with EK Edwin. Let me ask you to unmute your microphone.
Okay, good day, sir. Ike is my name from Nigeria. Are you hearing me fine?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay, please, my question is this. I am running master's program in electrical engineering. So please, I want to be enlightened on maybe the number of credit units that I need to make up in order to graduate. And the minimum number of months or years that it will take me to make that.
So which program are you in? Like
I
bachelor's?
have studied electrical engineering master's program.
Is it are you bachelor's, master's, doctorate?
I don't understand. I said master's program in electrical engineering.
Okay, let me see. So I guess in a general sense, I'll say in the bachelor's program, you ultimately need 120 credits to graduate. That's for the bachelor's. In the master's program, you ultimately need 30 credits to graduate. In the doctorate program, you ultimately need 50 credits to graduate. And there are many ways to get your credits. I'm actually looking up right here. There you are. Okay, I see you're in a master's of electrical engineering.
Yeah.
And so you have yeah, you will need 30 credits. So, you know, when I look at, this is something I think everybody should hear. When I look at your transcript, there's many, many, many courses from these live lessons that have 0.25 credits. So you need to come to 4 of these just to get 1 credit. Or you need to come to 10 of these just to get, what? 10 times 0.25 is 2.5 credits. So just by participating, just by coming to these live classes, you're not getting many credits. What you need to do is after, answer the questions, maybe write up a little assignment on the course and transfer those 0.25 credits into 1 credit or 3 credits. Because 3 credits for this course gives you 12 times more credits for this course. So I'm seeing that your transcript doesn't have that many credits. You've taken a lot of live classes, but it only translates into maybe 2 or 3 credits. Okay. So what you really need to do is do assignments. Like when I put up into chat here, I'm going to put up into chat the assignment template. So you use this template to write an essay. And so like today's live course was local economies. So you could just put in the title, say, okay, local economies, and then write your ideas and essays and things you know about what's happening in your community, research some things on the internet, get some ideas, write up an essay, and then submit it in to get more credits. Because then if you submit an essay, you'll get 3 credits instead of 0.25. That's a big difference. So this is the key here is to the key really is to get more credits with the work that you're doing. Now, when you receive the certificate, when you receive the email about this course, you'll see a link that you can go to and actually answer some questions and at least get 1 credit for the course, or maybe 0.5 credits. So you can get more credits, and that's key. That if you really find one of these live classes really interesting, turn it into a full essay of like 4 pages, 4 to 5 pages, where like 1.5 spacing or double spacing between the lines, and just express your ideas. What do you think about this? Local economies, is it possible? How hard is it? Who has to do it? And then write your assignment that way. Okay, Iki Edwin, Nana, do you understand?
Yes. One more question, please.
Yes.
One more question. Somebody in electrical engineering and another person in maybe administration. Is there anything like the core courses which you have to concentrate as per your profession, where you are heading to, or just anywhere you can gather the points and make up the 30 credit points? So is there anything like the core courses, the core program that you have to concentrate on, and they use the other ones as optional?
Yeah, I'm not hearing everything you say, but I'm hearing you mention the core courses. So for, say, a master's in electrical engineering, you have to have at least 4, preferably 6 courses in electrical engineering for your master's level program. And that becomes your core courses. And anything beyond that, anything beyond those 4 to 6 courses for electrical engineering, you are free to study any course you want. Any live course, any live class. So does that answer your question? Because I was not able to hear all of it. But as long as you have 4 to 6 good electrical engineering courses, and then any optional course you want, you are good. Because we want you to not just concentrate only on electrical engineering. There's all these other topics that are really going to help you in your future. For example, local economies. This is a topic that you could actually create an electrical engineering company for just local communities and be able to work in a local community in a way that cultivates a local community. So these other topics may make you a real success in your future. So we really want you to blend together the courses that will make you the electrical engineer that's the most valuable in your community. Okay, we'll go to Jonathan Ame. Thank you so much, Iki Edwin. Jonathan Ame. I'll just go to Kuberma. Akaide. Kuberme. Can you activate your microphone?
Hello.
There you go. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon to all. Good afternoon to all my colleague participants. I'm Kumberman from Ghana. I want to know how I'm going to submit my thesis. Is it via email or my student session?
How much of your thesis do you have written?
You said, hello.
Are you ready to submit your thesis, or do you still need more work to do?
Yeah. No, I'm doing the editing. I will soon finish and submit.
You can send it to me for review. And then once you have it, it's good to have a review of your thesis before you submit it. So you can send me that. I can give you some feedback. And then once you have it ready, you can just submit it through your student portal. Or if you have a problem doing that, you can send it to me or your tutor.
I haven't submitted it yet. So I should send it to you through email. Eh?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me put my email into chat.
Okay.
There's my email.
Okay, yeah.
And
yeah, I have it. I have it.
It's good to have your advisor.
I have it.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
it's
you are
good
my
to have,
advisor, so
it's good to have somebody it's good to have an advisor review your thesis before you submit it. Well, basically, I'm going to look at format, content, structure. Maybe if you do some statistical analysis, I'll take a look at that too to see if the key points are there.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm doing.
Thank you. Okay, Jonathan Ame, let's go back to you. Can you unmute your microphone now? Jonathan Ame, do you see a little button on your screen to activate your microphone? It doesn't seem to be working. Let's try again. Okay, let's go to Alaleke Samson. Can you activate? There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I just have a few questions to ask about the courses I'm studying. I'm studying Peace Admin, bachelor degree, and like the first questionnaire asks, what are the main courses, focus courses that needed to be studied, and what are the main routes of getting the points? If I'm to get my points, because like you say, I will need 120 points to get over to before I can make sure I graduated. Is it through my assignments, my class appearance, or what are those things that is needed for me before I could say, okay, I'm well qualified for graduation?
Okay,
question, sir?
I'm going to put into chat. I just put into chat an Excel document. You can download it by clicking on it.
Okay.
And it has a list of courses with exams for business administration. Primarily for the bachelor's program, but there are some master's level programs in there too. So you click on the link and it takes you to an exam. You can download the exam. On the exam is a link to download the book for the exam. So that's one way. So have you already done your curriculum design course? Submitted your course list?
No.
Let me see.
I've not.
Okay, I see you there. I see you you're still in phase 1.
Yeah, I had an issue, but I'm trying to log into my system now to see if I can.
I see that you have not submitted any documents yet in phase 1 either. So you're going to need to do that. You're going to need to do your autobiography. If you contact your tutor should have a form that you can just fill out. And it will cover your portfolio course, your resume course, and your autobiography course. And those are the 3 required courses of phase 1. So once you do those 3 required courses, autobiography, the resume, the CV, and the portfolio, where you just show us a diploma from high school or from previous studies, so that we can verify that you can study a bachelor's program. So once you finish phase 1, then you go to phase 2, get your list of courses, and start studying. So I think what I'm going to do right now is, there's a very important document that everybody should have, but I don't think everybody has. And it's how to add new courses to your curriculum. So let me put that into chat right now. So this is a little guide. So if you want to add a new course, like let's say you want to write an essay on local economies, but you already have your curriculum design approved, your course plan, you already have that approved. And now you want to add a new course because you think this is really interesting, like local economies, like the live class from today. That little guide there will tell you it will show you how to add that title for a course. And then once it's added, just submit it, just push on the submit button, and you can submit an essay, a document for grading. So Florence says, how many credits do I have in classes to attend? Okay, for a PhD, so, think about it. If you want to get 15 credits, let's say you want to get 20 credits just from live classes. How many live classes do you need to attend? You need to attend 80 live classes, 80, just to get 20 credits, because you're getting 0.25 credits per live class. So in the doctorate program, you need to be writing essays or doing PowerPoint presentations or doing a video documentary of something, or even an audio of you talking for 10 minutes about a particular topic for your course that you're researching and that you're thinking about. And that gives you more credits. In the doctorate program, all of the courses that pertain to your major receive 5 credits. And then most of the optional courses will receive 3 credits. So by creating an assignment that is more well-developed, like an essay or a 25-slide PowerPoint presentation, you get a lot more credits. And that will help you. It actually helps you develop your skills, and it helps you move towards graduation much faster at your own pace. So you have to blend these live classes with other work that's like essays, or you have to take these live classes and convert them into more credits by answering that little questionnaire that when you receive your email about this live class, I think there's a little link that says resume. Click on resume and you can actually resume the course, keep going with the course. You receive a questionnaire, you answer those questions, and then you receive more credits. Okay. Please advise if the above is the email, as can't go through. So I guess what you're saying, Dr. Francis Mina, is that Tobias Roberts 20@hotmail.com does not go through. Well, did he include the email in his presentation? Because you will, when you go on YouTube or you go on to the live class section of your quick menu in your student section, you'll be able to see the recording of the live class. Then you can look on the live recording to see if his email is still there. I didn't write down his email. I'd have to go way up here to see what he wrote. I'm going way up here to see what Tobias Roberts wrote for his own email. I still haven't found it yet. Yeah, because we have a lot of comments in chat. I'm not seeing it. Oh. Yeah, I didn't see it. Yeah, I missed it. Okay, so I would think you probably have to contact your tutor to get Tobias Roberts' email, the correct email, if that one's not working. Okay, let's go to Jonathan Ame. Are you able to activate your microphone now? Okay, keep working on it. Let's go to Scriford Banda. That's there. I think I can hear you now.
Good morning, Dr. Lambert.
Good morning and
Can
good
you hear me
afternoon.
clearly?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you. I have a question. So my question or concern is that I can't access my student section. So I wanted to find out at what stage am I right now? Because I've been having challenges to access my student section so that I submit other assignments. Is it clear, sir?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with your student section. I'm going to open it up here and take a quick look at it.
I haven't been able to access it the past 3 weeks. I can't see it. I can't view it.
Is it because maybe your password needs to be changed? Is it the password problem?
Okay, maybe I'd changed 2 times, but I can't view the section still more.
I would say you have my email. You also have the email from, you can also contact your tutor.
All right.
Your tutor is probably better to help you.
All right.
Send a message to your tutor to make sure that you have the correct password. Your tutor can actually change the password, send you the new password. Once you have the new password, you should be able to get in.
All right. Then I also wanted to find out at what stage am I now?
You're in phase 3.
Phase 3, okay, all right.
And let me see how many credits you have. So yeah, you just moved into phase 3. But I'm looking at your credits. Yeah, you're doing a major in public health. So you need to concentrate more courses in on public health.
All right.
So what I can do right now is I can use ChatGPT to give you a list of courses. Do you have a list of courses already?
I do have them, yes. But you can give them to me.
Yeah, I can go into the courses that you have submitted and okay, I am seeing you have a wide range of courses beyond public health, like advanced operating systems, wireless networks, mathematics, analysis of materials. That almost sounds like an engineering. Are you an engineer or public health?
It is sort of an engineering course because my public health, I'm doing also some engineering course. My major is cardiology. So in cardiology, there is something to do with ultrasound, which is more of engineering. Though you can advise me, I still need to get some advice from you. What is better for me?
So you're looking at, I'm going to put in Chat GPT, give me 8 courses with descriptions for you have a doctorate program, correct?
Sure.
For a doctorate program focusing on cardiology, public health, and what type of engineering?
It's just the School of Engineering, but it's public health with a major in cardiology.
So I'm going to say technology for public health. Engineering technology. Engineering technology for public health. Okay, here come the courses. Okay, now I'm just going to give you this list. Let me create a document that I can upload into chat for you. And then everybody's going to be able to see this.
No problem.
Because I want you to see how Chat GPT works. Okay, so what I want to include the prompt that I put into this. Okay. Apparently I didn't spell cardiology correct, but I think I got it. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to put up into chat this document so everybody can see.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Oh, I can't upload it because I have the file already open in the computer. Let's try that again. Okay, so I just put up into chat a quick list of courses, and you'll see that I wrote a prompt basically saying, give me 8 courses with descriptions for a doctorate program focusing on cardiology, public health, and engineering technology for public health. So you'll see 8 courses and describing what you would study in each of those courses.
I can't view the 8 courses, sir.
Oh, it took cardiology. Oh, I'm going to have to do this again because it took cardiology as a dental issue because I misspelled cardiology. All right, let's do that again.
I also wanted to view them on the chart. Is it okay, sir?
Yes. Are you able to see chat?
I'm able to
Cardiology.
see the chart, but I can't view the courses, the subject. I can't see them.
Okay, here. So I'm going to redo this. Bring up that. Because I misspelled a word, it gave me dental courses. but you're in cardiology, not cardiology.
Cardiology.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. So I just changed it. You can see how fast ChatGPT works. Let me to double check. I'll have to close down. Let's try that again. There, working fast for you. There, I just put up a new course list. So you can kind of see exactly how ChatGPT creates courses for you. This gives you a direction to take. At least it gives you a list of courses, advanced cardiovascular pathophysiology description, public health policy and cardiac care description. So description is just basically, that's the description of the course. So engineering applications in cardiology, epidemiology and cardiovascular research, public health strategies for cardiovascular disease, cardiac imaging, the environmental factors and cardiovascular health, and health informatics and data analytics in cardiology. So it gives you an idea of some courses. And if you like those courses, you can use them. If you don't like them, you can ask for different courses, but be more specific in what you want to study. And then it will give you some ideas for courses.
All right.
I'm going to put in, there's a question here, kindly share some links for public health and epidemiology. I am going to put into chat right now. Let's see. Let me see if this is a better one. Yeah, okay, this is a better one, I think. Okay, so I'm putting into chat right now a PowerPoint presentation on completing courses. One of the slides in that presentation gives you lots of options to find research material on the internet. AIU has two libraries, and there's also some online libraries. There's web pages you can search for. YouTube has lots of videos. You will find courses. Like if you have a course in, let's see, epidemiology, you could go to YouTube and say, a live course for epidemiology, and you'll see lots of options. And it's also good to filter for a playlist, and then you'll see a playlist that has many different courses in epidemiology.
All right.
And you'll actually be able to see some of the best professors around the world teaching certain courses. And it's free. It's free on YouTube because they put up their courses on YouTube.
All right.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Thank you very much. It has enlightened me.
Thank you so much for your question, Scriford. Okay.
You're welcome.
Let's go to Hector Lubamba. Hector Lubamba?
Yeah, so Dr. Lambert.
Hello.
Yeah, so glad to hear you and to have you this afternoon. It's almost 5 p.m. in Kinshasa, the DR Congo. Yes, I have two questions. I'm enrolled in the PhD, focusing on legal studies in business law. I'm currently on the phase 3, as you can see, earning so far 70 credits. My question is about the phases. I'm currently working on the proposal of the phases. And I want just to know if at this phase, Is it possible to work with also with a local professor, for example, to get more some information or some guidance, but in the meantime being reviewed, of course, being reviewed by the AIU. This is my first question. And the second question is just to know how, I mean, the process is going to be held. Is it going to be an online session to present the phases? Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for your question, Hector Lubamba. I just put into chat a presentation for professional plan. And you are in an educational program right now, but you have to think of your AIU education as part of your overall professional career development. Education is one part of that. So you also need to be working on developing your career and your jobs for the future. And you can blend those into your AIU program. So you look at that professional plan that I put up there and you'll see some examples that you can use to actually develop your professional plan within your educational program. So one of the things you'll see on that list is doing an internship, working with professionals in your community, interviewing professionals in your community, developing a network and contacts with professionals in your community and around the world. So yes, if you want to work with a professor, if you want to work in an organization, if you want to do an internship, we love that. Most times we need to write you a letter asking for permission from that organization to give you an internship. And then you decide how much time you want to spend with that organization and work with them and say, can I do this for 3 months, 6 months, 1 month? How much time can I stay here working with you in my internship? And then we write a letter asking for permission. Let's say you want 3 months and you want 60 hours of work per month. Well, we'll write a letter asking 60 hours per month for 3 months to doing an internship with their organization. And it's great because then after graduation, you can look to them and say, I'm graduated now. Do you have a job for me? Yes, we'd love to having you work for us. Please, we have a job waiting for you. So you turn that course that you're studying into an internship, and ultimately that turns into a job for you in the future. That's what you want.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Gertrude. Chief Wembe. Gertrude, can you activate your microphone?
Thank you, Doc.
There you are.
Good evening from Zambia.
Good evening.
My question is on the proposal because I'm in phase 3 now. And I'm trying to find out because I submitted my thesis proposal and it has been graded. Now my question is, am I supposed to develop the thesis from the proposal? That is my question.
Yes. Yes, because if your proposal is basically the guideline that I just want to quickly say that there's a message in chat from Ismail doing a bachelor's in public administration. I just put a link to some exams for public administration. You can download that and see your exams and courses. So Gertrude, in your thesis proposal, you don't have to, well, let me just put it this way. You have a plan. The proposal is a plan, but your plan can change. So as you begin to research your thesis, you may find that you want to change it a little bit. Or you want to focus on one aspect of your thesis research a little more. So your proposal is just a proposal, but the finished product can actually be very different, or it can be very similar to your proposal. So as you begin to research it, the thesis begins to develop its own personality, its own path that may be different from the proposal that you originally thought of. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. I'm also going to put up into chat right now another let me see here. Okay. This is a presentation on phase 3 when you're doing your thesis. It gives you some guidelines to work with when you're doing your thesis. And one thing at AIU is we prefer you to do a shorter thesis instead of these long 50, 80-page theses. We prefer a thesis from around 20 to 30 pages because you're going to have much more success in publishing your thesis. More people are going to read it. And if you want to do an 80-page thesis, it is better to divide that 80-page thesis into 3 smaller theses. Because if you get we want you to get a professional blog, like I put up that link to that professional plan. One of the things in there is to write a professional blog. All of you should have a professional blog where you're talking about your studies, your research, and you're also uploading your assignments that you've completed in your blog. And you'll want to do that with your thesis work too, so that you'll have links to view your thesis work in the blog. And if you take a long thesis, people don't want to read a long thesis anymore because they think there's information in there that is not needed. They just need to know the ideas. So you take a really long thesis, you break it into 3 shorter theses, and then you know what? The readers will actually prefer to read 3 shorter theses, 3 shorter ones instead of 1 long one. And so you'll actually present the same material, but your readers will actually read more of what you write when you write shorter theses. That's why there's many other reasons why we want you to write a shorter thesis. And we want you to publish it through your own professional blog or your own professional website. There are so many reasons. Let me see if I can put these into chat for you, if I can find this document. So I want you to see this list of advantages here. I think this is the one. Or is there a more updated one? Let me check. Nope, this is the better one. So I just put into chat, these are advantages to publishing your thesis through your own professional blog. It's easier for you to copyright the ideas. You can as you put up your ideas and publish your assignments faster, it's faster for you to actually copyright your ideas, because once you've published it in your blog, it's copyrighted because it's date stamped. It has a date and a time on there when you publish that idea. So if someone comes out later and says, no, this is my idea, and then you say, okay, when did you publish it? When was the first time you published it? And they say, okay, and it was like 2 months after you published it. Say, well, I published the same idea 2 months earlier. Here's proof. And you get the copyright. And you can basically say that they looked at what you published 2 months earlier and then tried to make it their own. And so you have exposure. You can prepare others for the completion of your book. So if you're writing a book, you can put parts of your book, talk about parts of your book as you're writing it in your professional blog. And then when your book is complete, you have customers that are waiting for the complete and finished book. Center of information, making contacts. There's just so many options for you to, this is the best way to publish your thesis. And you'll want to do in that presentation that I put into chat, where it talks about phase 3, the guidelines for a thesis. So it's basically 2,000 to 4,000 words. So you can figure 3,000 words for a thesis. And then if you want to write many of these, each of your assignments could be a 2,000 to 3,000 page, 2,000 to 3,000 word thesis. And so you can take each of your assignments and upload them to your professional blog. And then when it comes time for you to go out and say, okay, I have my AIU degree, I want a job. And your employer says, I'm not really familiar with this organization, this university. What more can you show me? And then you give them the link to your professional blog of all the work you did in your AIU program and all of your comments and your blog posts. That's when they say, okay, we understand and now we value your education. So it's so important for you in your professional development to include your own professional blog or your own professional web page about the work that you do. Blogs are good because you can continually write every few days ideas of research that you're working on. As from my own experience, I know from other professors, this is the way to do it nowadays. 15, 20 years ago, people could still write a long thesis and be successful. Now it's not. Your chances of being successful are much, much less. So create your own professional blog and start to incorporate and upload your assignments into your blog. And then every 2 to 3 days, write a blog post about something you're thinking about, working on, something you see in your community, something. And the optimal blog post is about 300 pages. So you could say 200 to 500, not pages, words, sorry. 200 to 500 words is the optimal blog post. If you have a blog post of 700 words, it's too long, really. Make it into 2 separate blog posts. So you talk about one aspect in one blog post, and then write a second blog post. So you want to keep those blog posts short, but do it on a continual basis, like every 2 to 3 days. People say is the best rhythm. If you do it every day, that's fine. But as long as you do it every 2 to 3 days, people say that's the optimal way to publish your ideas on a blog. And give yourself about 200 to 500 words per blog post. Okay. Did I answer all of your questions, Gertrude?
Yes, Doc. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go on to the next question from Chiniere Lois.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm Chinyere from Nigeria.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. I'm a legal student, bachelor's. I have a concern. I'm actually in phase 2 right now. I'm finding it difficult creating assignments and uploading videos, and I don't even know the courses to, register. I have a couple of courses I've, registered. I don't know if it is actually for my studies or not. So I'm kind of confused. I just need your input here.
Well, if you're confused, chances are other students are confused too. So, I see your bachelor's in legal studies.
Mhm.
I'm going to put up into chat right now. Let's see, you are in phase 2.
Mhm.
And I'm going to look to see what courses you've already submitted. So you've basically only done, from what I can see, live classes. Is that true? Could be. Okay, so I'm going to check something here to see how many courses. If you go into your student portal, if you log in and you go to the phase 2 section, which I'm waiting to come up right now. You need, okay, it says you're going to need 37 courses. You've already chosen a lot of them. I'm looking to see if your courses have to do with legal studies. I'm looking at global justice, political science, refugee law. That's 3. International humanitarian law, philosophy law, common law, contract law, there it is. Criminal law, international law, immigration law, business law, excellent. Okay, so you have lots of law courses that you can work with. But one thing I'm noticing here is that it looks bachelor students are eligible, they qualify for transfer credits. And so there would have to be a review of your resume and your diploma and some other things to see if you qualify for transfer credits. Are you interested in receiving transfer credits? Are you there? Oh, you have to unmute your microphone again. Chinyere.
Okay. Okay, I can hear you. What did you say?
Are you interested in receiving transfer credits?
Yes, please.
Okay. So after we are done here, I'm
Mhm.
going to do a review of your work experience and some other things in your work experience and your academic experience, and look at your
Okay.
records and give you some transfer credits.
Okay, thank you.
And that actually lowers the amount of courses that you need to do in a bachelor's program.
Okay, thanks.
Let me think here for a second. If you're in the master's program or the doctorate program and even the bachelor's program, or even certificate and associate's program, you can get credit for work experience. So I'm now going to put up into chat another here it is. So this is a report that you can complete for about work experience that you have or courses that you've completed outside of AIU.
Okay.
So you write up a report about your work experience.
Mhm.
And the title of the report will actually be the course name.
Okay.
And so you would have to add the course and then submit this report as the assignment for the course.
Can you take that again?
I will say that again. So you fill out this report.
Okay.
And the name of the report is actually the course name. So if you have experience in, let's say, I'll keep it simple, international law, or even humanitarian law, you can write down your experience
Okay.
in that. And then we evaluate that experience, how long you've been doing it, at what level you've been doing it, what sort of concepts you've used in your experience, and give you credits for knowledge at the level of your program that you already have.
Okay.
And if you've studied some things already, write a report about that. Maybe you've done some independent studying on something, write a report.
Mhm.
And then you're going to want to, if you already have that course listed in your curriculum, just submit that report into your curriculum as the assignment.
Okay.
If it's not, then you add the course and then submit the report as your assignment for that new course that you just added.
Okay. And that means I'm going to submit this in the phase 1, right?
No,
I
this
have
is
to go
phase,
back to phase 1.
this is a phase 2 course.
Oh, okay.
Phase 1, are you still in phase 1?
No, I'm done with phase 1.
You're done with phase 1, right? You're in phase 2.
Oh, yeah.
So everything you do now is going to be phase 2.
Okay.
And then in phase 3, it would just be, if you do a thesis. At the bachelor's program, a thesis is not required. In the United States, bachelor students do not do a thesis. So
All right, thank you.
it's mostly in the master's, but always in the doctorate program, a thesis. Okay, and I also wanted to put into chat, you're doing a, no, you already have plenty, you don't need this. I'm not gonna put that up for you. You already have all of the courses that you need. But I need to make a note to myself to review your transfer credits. So 1 second. Okay. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Thank you so much for your question, Chinyere.
Thank you.
Lumbayi, go ahead. Good to see you.
Dr. Lambert, how are you? Me too, thank you, Dr. Lambert, for the time. And then I heard when the Gertruda was talking, you emphasized or something, internship.
You need a course on leadership?
No, internship, like if you want to do practicals, like.
Yes.
Yes. So I've been asking for the later because I went to the facilities when I wanted to do my practicals. So they need a later that's gonna say that what the university wants me to do. So how am I gonna get that later?
Do you have my email, correct?
Yes, I've got it.
Now, do you already have in mind where you want to do the internship?
I have, yes, especially where I work, they want me to do that. And then it's perhaps not at a hospital, so they want me to go and do there as well. So
Perfect.
that's why I want you to
just
go do it.
write me an email. Give me the name of
Yes.
the organization.
Yes.
You don't have to do the complete address. You could just do the city and the country.
Yes. Yes.
And then I'll just write up. Tell me how long you want to do the internship for.
Yes.
And how many hours per week or per month that you want to do.
Yes.
And then I'll write up a letter.
Okay. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, doing an internship is awesome. Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. Because I want to get that knowledge, I want to,
You're not only setting yourself up, you're setting yourself up for a job in the future, but you can also take your internship and create courses about your experience there. Things that you're studying, things that you're learning. You can create a whole course and research it to really develop the knowledge.
Yeah.
So it becomes, your internship becomes like your research library to get information about knowledge.
True that.
Yeah. So yeah, an internship is wonderful, very powerful for your future work.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I will send you the email then.
Thank you so much, Lumbai. Have a good day.
You too, Doug.
Okay, we'll go on to Simon Chaka. Can you activate your microphone, Simon Chaka? Simon Chaka, are you there? Okay, let's go to Hassan Baho. Hassan?
Okay,
There
okay.
there. Good, I can hear you.
Hello, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Lambert. Thank you for your advice and counsel. I have reached the credits required for a PhD degree in pedagogy. But I haven't yet done the thesis part. Can I get the degree without the thesis part, without fulfilling the thesis part? Thank you.
I'm looking right now at your transcript. Here it comes. Okay, so pedagogy. You have the option. You have plenty of credits to graduate. So you have the option for your own records to convert one of your phase 2 assignments, preferably the best phase 2 assignment that you have with the most in-depth original research, and convert it into a modern thesis. And so on your transcript, it will become your thesis. Because most students think a thesis has to be a long project of like at least 50 pages of writing. A thesis nowadays does not have to be a long thesis. You can take a well-developed phase 2 assignment with a good amount of bibliography, with a good introduction, some research in there, original analysis, with a good conclusion. A paper like that can be published. It's good enough to be published. So therefore, it's at the level of a thesis. So you can take a well-developed phase 2 assignment and say, I want to convert this into my thesis. So then on your transcript, it will appear as your final thesis, and it will receive more credits because we recognized it as a work at a higher level. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you have any questions about this?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So you have my email. If you see an assignment that you're really proud of because of its depth of research and your original analysis, and it's within your major,
okay,
recommend that to me. I will look at it. If it completes the criteria for a high level piece of research, I will label it a thesis. Then you will have a thesis on your transcript, and it will receive more credits, and you'll be ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a really good question. I don't get much of a chance to actually say that you can actually take one of your phase 2 assignments that you really did a good job on, and you kind of wrote a little bit of extra length, maybe up to 15 pages, or maybe even up to 20 or 25 pages. You know, you wrote a longer assignment with a good bibliography, and you really did this original analysis. You can say, instead of just like in the bachelor's program or master's program, you don't just have to get 3 credits for that, calling it a phase 2 course. Say, I want to convert this assignment into my thesis work. I'm really proud of it. Well, you can. And so we can take that well-developed phase 2 assignment, convert it into a thesis, and give you more credits. In the bachelor's and master's program, it would receive 10 credits as a thesis work. So you would receive like 7 more credits by converting one of your good, in your opinion, your best phase 2 work. You convert your best phase 2 work into a thesis. And so then it would appear on your transcript as your final thesis, or even as a modern thesis or some type of thesis. So keep that in mind. And in the doctorate program, you can do the same. But a thesis in the doctorate program will receive 15 to 20 credits. So if you have a really good assignment in the doctorate program in your phase 2 courses, You can say, I really like this. I really loved this research that I did, and I want to convert this into my thesis. You have that option. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think that's it. Let's go to Salisu Badamasi. Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Always nice to see you here, sir.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. Sir, I have some questions. First, in respect of assignment and exams, the way to submit it. What is the best way to submit it? I mean, is it in PDF or in Word documents? When I do the assignment, should I convert it to PDF or I should send it like that in words? That is my first question, sir.
Well, let me answer that question first. You can send it in PDF or Word.
Okay,
so
sir.
there shouldn't be a problem with either one.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. The second one, I learned today from you that I'm doing a bachelor's degree in public administration, that the credit I need is 125 to graduate. And
No, it should be 120.
Okay, 120. And last conference I attended, I heard you saying one can graduate without having these credits, or that one can graduate before one will have this and later have it, or something like that, if you need certificate for something. Like, please, I need more explanation on this.
Well, if you don't have 120 credits, you can't graduate.
Okay, okay, that is good.
I think that answers the question very simply.
Oh, very simple. And now, thank you so much, sir. And I also want to know if there is any other assignment in phase 1 that I personally have not accomplished, that it's compulsory, though I'm in phase 2 right now. But is there any assignment in phase 1 that I must not have noticed that I need to do it, or since I'm in phase 2, I don't need to go back to phase 1?
In phase 1, there are 3 required courses, and then
Yes, sir.
there are 5 optional courses.
Okay, sir.
Of those 5 optional courses, there's like philosophy of education, where you write maybe a 1,000-word essay.
Yes, I have done that, yeah.
No, wait, is that right? 1,000 words? Yeah, I think that's right. 1,000 words.
Okay, sir.
And so you actually get 2 credits for that course instead of 1, like the other optional courses.
Okay, sir.
And there's other courses in there where you're actually analyzing the scope of you in your life. Who are you? What's your family like, and your work and your community, and what's your position in the global environment, so that you get a good sense of who you are. So the other optional courses in phase 1 help you define your future work.
Okay, sir.
And that will then help you define the courses that you need in phase 2.
Yes, sir.
Say, okay, I know what I want to do, because you're unique and unrepeatable.
Yeah.
You have your own particular future that you want to put together.
Yeah.
Those phase 1 optional courses help you define that. Now, if you already have that defined and you already know what you want to do, then move on to phase 2 and get courses that fulfill your vision. So what is your major? You said public administration, was it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Public administration, sir.
So you might find I sent you the link to exams for public administration. So probably in those exams, you're going to have all you need.
Okay, sir.
But at the same time, you may say, you know, I really would like a course on a particular topic that would really be important in public administration. You might think healthcare or education. How can you apply public administration to improve education in your community? So then you might do a course on understanding educational administration. You know, what does it take to manage a school? So you understand their issues. So you take, you study a course in educational administration because that becomes unique to your own vision of public administration of your work in the future.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Lastly, I heard, like you said, bachelor's degrees don't need thesis. Is that what you said?
Right.
Okay, sir.
But write your assignments, the essay assignments, in a good thesis format.
Okay.
Because then you always have that option to say, you know, I would love to turn one of my assignments into a thesis.
Yes.
You need at least 5 references in the bibliography. I would say you need at least 2,000 words in the assignment.
Okay.
It needs to be original. So when we go into the service that we have that evaluates an assignment for text from other sources in the internet, you know, that should be at least below 30, preferably below 20%.
Okay, sir.
And so if you write an assignment that's original work, at least 5 bibliography, has an introduction, and the body of the essay, and then a good conclusion, you can convert it into a thesis. Because a lot of students say they need a thesis on their transcript.
Okay.
For a particular organization or for their government or whatever.
Okay.
And so you can actually create one of your assignments to be the thesis.
Okay.
But you have to let us know. You have to say, okay, I want to convert this assignment into a thesis.
Okay.
So then we have to evaluate it, and then we convert that into a thesis by changing its name on your transcript, basically.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Have a nice time, sir.
Thank you. Wonderful question. Thank you so much. Donna Latoya, go ahead. Thank you for waiting. Donna Latoya.
Dana, hi, Dr. Lambert. Thank you so
Hello.
much and pleasant good day.
Nice to meet you.
So, same here finally. We've been talking since last year, but not like this actually. So I have 2 questions. One, I have completed everything except my thesis. I am 100% ready to graduate. I just wanted to know, because I got accepted for the postdoctorate program. Should I continue go on to the postdoctorate? And what does that mean with regards to graduating with my doctorate this year in November? What should I do?
As far as graduating with your doctorate or your postdoctorate in November?
My doctorate.
So
do I still need to do my thesis?
You've already completed your doctorate, right?
Well, as far as I know, I have been called Dr. Bob and everything.
Yeah.
But I didn't do my thesis. So I just needed to know, do I still need to do a thesis or should I continue to and accept the postdoctorate?
Let me check here on your transcript. Okay, now I see that you have enough credits to graduate. You're in phase 4, you're moving forward. I do not see that you've enrolled in the postdoctorate yet, correct? Have you oh, sorry, you're muted again.
No, sorry.
You have not enrolled in the postdoctorate yet, correct? Oh, you're muted again. Sorry, how does that happen? Okay,
Right.
so
So
okay.
correct. I have not been enrolled in the postdoctorate because I needed to know if I still need to do a thesis.
For the doctorate program, you do not.
Okay.
For the postdoctorate program, and for doing a thesis, is there a particular
Right.
type of thesis that you need to do?
Which I got the package. I'm just deciding on if I want to do the postdoctorate right this minute or take a year off and then, you know, enrolled in the postdoctorate program.
Which
Because I
is,
need to
that's very
mhm.
reasonable. That's very reasonable. Because if you need the
Yes.
time to set up research for that particular
Yes.
thesis work that you want to
Yes.
do, take the time. But
Yes.
right now, you are ready to graduate.
So I'm ready to graduate just to finish my paying my tuition fees, correct?
Now, yeah, I will tell you that you do have the option, even in your doctorate program, to look at some of your assignments and to identify one of the assignments as a thesis, as a modern thesis.
And I can submit it.
Yes, you can submit it. You can just write to me and say, you know, I think this is one of my best works, and I can look at it and evaluate it for its originality.
Well, there were
depth of
two
research.
actually. There were two I was looking at because I did an intense dive into the research, and I really wanted to enhance the assignment. So as you say that, I'm really happy to know that I can do that and submit it as my thesis.
So do you want to go ahead and revise the assignment and then submit it as an improved assignment and say, okay,
Yes.
now that I've added more to this, now I want you to use this as my thesis. Yes, you can do that.
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you so very much.
That's awesome,
That
because
is
then you're
excellent.
now you're continuing your work, you're building upon it and creating something greater,
Yes.
which then can say, okay, now this is publishable. This is something that you could publish. And once a work is publishable, once you can publish it, basically that's a thesis. When it reaches that level that it can be published.
Okay.
Because
thanks so much. You just made my entire month.
Because a thesis needs to be innovative, fresh, and fresh thinking. So if you create an assignment with original analysis, that's fresh and innovative because it's your own original analysis. And if you have a proper structure to it, that means it's publishable. And once it's publishable and innovative, it counts as a thesis, basically.
Okay, good. Thank you so very much. And I will submit by the end of August because I just have a few more things to finish because I really want to graduate in November.
Yeah,
so,
you're ready to go. I think if you just, how close is November? That's like 4 months away.
Yes, just to finish pay off tuition fees.
Yeah, so give yourself a month or two to finish up your work and get ready for graduation. And remember, do you have a professional blog yet of your own?
Not as yet, no.
Do it, please. Everybody, please set up a professional blog and give the blog a title that relates to your career development. Like, let me see here. Dana, do you say Dana or Dana?
Dana.
Dana, what is your particular focus in business administration?
So, well, to me right now it's sort of like leading a team in the 21st century. You know, so many, but I am in education, but there's so many office administrators that they are unable in the education field, especially to lead a team in the 21st century. they are so behind so many managerial experiences, as well as, you know, program development. So those are the areas that I'm looking at in the 21st century. They don't know how to use Excel, simple Microsoft Office suite. They don't know how to use certain applications. They are doing filing in 21st century and they're so backward. You know, so those are areas that I'm thinking about.
So how, think of a name for your professional blog.
Okay.
And let's hear it. What, so now that you know your focus of your work, what title would you give your professional blog?
I don't know. I have to think about that now.
Does it have anything to do with
I have to
teamwork?
think about it.
Teamwork?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Effective leadership, transformational leaders, along that line.
Transformational leadership and teamwork?
Yes, yes.
So somewhere in there, you're going to find the title to your blog. Transformational leadership for teams by Dana Latoya
yes.
Bob. By Dana Latoya Bob. And that's,
yes, I like that.
And that becomes your professional blog, and start writing your ideas, introducing yourself, and then start developing your research ideas. You know, take an idea that you find on the internet, write a 300-word blog post about it, and then continue on with some other ideas, saying, now that I've researched this one idea, this is what I'm finding. You know, just keep talking about it, but publicly through your own blog. And then when it comes time for you to find work, and they see how active you are in your own blog, your value goes way up, because they say, wow, she is writing every day, or writing every 2 to 3 days. She's got all these ideas. She's included graphs and photos. She's interviewed people. She's actually uploaded some of her thesis work so that we can read it. And so you're able to show them exactly your educational and professional development in your own blog. And this is now the modern way to turn your education into a success in the future.
Yes, thank you so much.
And some universities have already gone this way. I know of a university in Western Colorado that's getting their students to do this. But it's for the traditional universities, they're not doing this yet. They're not teaching their students to actually start developing their professional blogs. But the time will come in about 10 years when everybody realizes this is the way to do it. So AIU is ahead of its time. AIU is innovative, very innovative to do exactly now what's working. If we see something that's working better, we change our program, we change our policy, because we see, okay, research is showing something is working better. Let's make the change now instead of waiting 10 years so the students can benefit now. Because the world is changing fast, even with artificial intelligence. The world is changing fast. And so we quickly saw its value, and we quickly incorporated it into your student section. So we want you to have the most current, up-to-date tools and policies that are going to make you a success faster in your own life. Okay, thank you so much, Dana.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lambert. Really appreciate your input.
Okay. I only have about 5-10 more minutes. So let's go to Richie Adebusi. Richie. Hello, Richie. How are you today?
Hi, Dr. Lambert. Thank you so much. I had listened rapidly and well, rather with rapt attention to all of the questions, holding my breath that someone might come up with what might, get to mind. But sadly, no, as it were. But a lot of all the things I said are helpful. I have a challenge still with my phase one. You gave me some tips the very first time I spoke with you. but I've had some personal challenges relating to health. I've been attending the classes, and I can tell you the classes have kept me believing and fighting. I probably would have written the school to say, can I shift my program? But the live classes have helped me to keep up. So thank you so very much for them, and for you to have this particular session. Now, for my phase one, I started about the time we had issues with the website. And when I got back to try to continue, when I get things done, getting back to them, I don't find what I've done again. So it became quite discouraging to keep, maybe, if you like, answering the same questions or filing in the same materials, and not being able to, you are not copying from anywhere. I don't copy from anywhere. I'm not reading from anywhere. I'm writing, you know, to answer the questions. And so when they are gone, I'm a writer. If I can't remember exactly what I wrote the last time, to put it that way, it affects me. You know, it's like I'm doing the wrong thing, you know. But now I'm feeling much better health-wise. So you know, the phase one, it's a challenge to be talking about phase one 4 months or 3 months into the program, you know. So what do I do with this whole thing about, you know, responding to issues, and then for some reason I want to upload, I don't get to upload, and then I can't find what I have written again, then I have to start all over again. But if you remember our last discussions, I'm doing a doctoral on intergenerational communication. Can you hear me, Doctor?
Hold on, I was muted.
Okay.
In phase one, so if you go online and you start writing out your assignments and you try to submit it, and all of a sudden the information is lost, you can, as you're writing it, you can select it, copy it, and put it into a Word document. And so if you lose the information online, at least you'll have the information still in your Word document. And then you can upload the Word document as your phase one course.
Well, I get that now. I know. I'm just saying, I know I could do that, you know, from the beginning, but then I don't know. I will have the experience of losing the materials, you know, trying to upload. You know, like I said, I write. You know, I try to do things as original as possible. And once I lose that first set of things I put, if I'm not getting feedback, the exact words, the exact sentence structures, I become punched out. That's actually what has happened over this, because subsequent things I've written, I don't get the same feel about what you know, that with that passion with which I did the first one. You know, so that's the challenge I've had. But I have to do the program. I have to do the program anyway. Anyhow.
So you're saying it's very hard to lose that information when you've written it.
Yeah, it's the things I've written again are not exactly, I know what I wrote initially, but then the feel, well, that's me. Sorry, right. You know,
so
that's me.
Do you work with Word, the program Word?
I work with Word, yes, but I work directly on the website.
So what you can do is you can go to Word, write down all of your ideas fresh onto your own Word document. Keep that fresh in your own document. And then when you want to go online, just copy and paste the text over into those little blocks where you have to put your text. Just copy and paste it over there. And then if you lose it online, you always have your Word document, because it's nice to work fresh from your own Word document.
My mistake, Doctor, I'm just trying to express what happened originally. My mistake.
It happens to everybody.
Oh, but then you know, when the website came back on after we spoke, if you remember, you speak with a lot of people, yes. After we spoke, you gave me a whole lot of insights, ideas, and all of that. And I jumped with it. I just went on site, logged in, and I started working. And wow, even to upload my photograph was impossible. I still not done it till now. I've not been able to do that. So,
you know, in many instances, you just contact your tutor and say, I'm really having a hard time uploading this assignment or this picture or whatever, and say, can you please do it for me? Because I'm having a hard time.
okay, I get that. I get that. And
So
the other
yeah,
thing,
that the tutor is there to help you with those administrative parts of your student portal, the platform.
okay.
They can help you, you know, learn to open up exams, learn what the different things on the menu can do, documents available for you in document management. They can help you with things about your inbox for your messages. They can help you with, you know, how to manage your courses, submit courses offline, online. They're there to help you with how to administrate the student section.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lastly, I heard you say earlier to another student that we could use work experience. I didn't get the full gist of that. No, we could use work experience as part of our program. So I really need for you to explain that a little bit. I know we're out of time, like you said.
It comes from QLP. I'll put this into chat. QALP, which means quality accelerated learning. I can just have to slow down here. Quality accelerated learning program. And this is that you have knowledge. Many people have knowledge already at the level of their program. Like if we have a bachelor student who's been working in business administration or accounting for 10 years already, they already have so much knowledge that they don't need to take the courses because they've already worked on these things for so long. Where you'll have like a regular bachelor student who's never worked has to take these courses to get the knowledge. But we have students who have already worked these course now, the knowledge of these courses. So then they have to just show us what they've done in their work so that we can recognize their knowledge from their work experience and say, okay, obviously you have this work knowledge. So you're going to get credit for this course. So I'm going to put into chat right now the report that you fill out. There. It's in chat now. You fill out that report to get credit for work experience. You know, if you've done international negotiation, if you've done cost accounting in your work, if you've been teaching preschool children for 3 years, talk about what you've done, your methods. You get credit for your work experience. If you have managed a project in your business organization, tell us what project you managed, what you did, you will get credit. Did you do monitoring and evaluation? Well, you'll get credit for monitoring and evaluation course. Did you do planning and budgeting for the project? Well, you're going to get credit for budgeting and project planning. You're going to get credit for those courses. So fill out that report. Tell us everything that you've done in your work experience, and then we take that and create credits, course credits from it.
Okay.
So basically it's saying, we recognize your work knowledge. We recognize that you already have the knowledge of this course. And now that you've written this report, we know that you're able to express and talk about this knowledge because you've written the report about it. So then we can verify your knowledge and your experience and say, yes, you get credit for this course from your work experience.
All right, Doctor, I get that. Earlier on, I'd like to, if you don't mind, I would like to, if you permit me, have a chat with you outside of this timing at your convenience. So if you can have your email, love to send some stuff.
Did you get my email? Did you get my email before in chat?
No, I didn't get it. That's why I'm
Here, let me put it back into chat.
I'm asking for it like now. So
There, I just put my email into chat. Any questions, any resources that you need, let me know. And anything that happens with with managing the student section, talk to your tutor.
Yeah. No, but this is about the things you've talked about.
Yeah. Okay, I have to go to the next question. Okay, we have one more. Oluyomi Oyewole. I am here.
Yes. Good evening, doctor. Good afternoon over there.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
It's morning where I am still.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. This is my first time of coming online to attend any of this lecture. Okay, second time of attending lectures today. Yesterday I've started this program for like about 6 years now, but I abandoned it. I abandoned it completely because I was running a series of projects, and I told myself I have to come back and round it up because I paid virtually all the money. So that's fine. I just have 3 questions because I'm doing degree in civil engineering. I have a lot of experience in construction. I'm a project manager. I'm a PMP certified professional. So I want to find out, okay, what are the courses that I will need to go through to get to my degree in civil engineering? That's number 1. Then I overheard you talking about transfer of credit. So what's the process of transferring credit? And the number 3 is what are the advantages of going through? I'm still in phase 1, so I want to look at. I've started work. I just hired yesterday, actually.
I see that you're in phase 2.
What?
Yeah, I see that you're in phase 2.
Oh, really? Okay. I have some options.
Let me double check your phase 1 courses. 1 second. Yeah, you have completed your phase 1, so you're in phase 2.
Yeah, but there are some, sorry, doctor, there are some optional courses in the phase 1. What's the advantage of attending to those optional courses in phase 1?
Okay, I'm going to put into chat right now the exams for civil engineering.
Okay.
And it doesn't seem like you've done your curriculum design yet. So you can actually you'll see a column on this Excel with a list of course names. And you can actually transfer those course names into you can actually add those course names into your curriculum.
Okay.
By using the guide I'm going to put up now. I put up this guide before, but I'll put it again here on how to add courses. So you choose you choose the civil engineering courses that you want from that list of exams. You add those to then you're going to add those courses to your curriculum, then you submit the curriculum.
Okay.
And let me check on your transfer credits. I see that you've already received 80 transfer credits.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. And that's done with a review of your work history. So yes, and I think if you have 3 more years of work history, yeah, you're going to have plenty of transfer credits.
Okay.
So with that, if I go into and 80 is the maximum amount of transfer credits you can get. So you reach the maximum.
Okay, that's fine.
And the system is saying you need to add 10 courses. So once you've added 10 courses, you can submit your curriculum design and then start working on your courses.
Okay, that's fine. And
I can see exactly what you need in your program. You already have the work, you already have your job, you just need to start working up. You need this degree to help you move and promote yourself through your work, because you're already developing your work experience.
Yeah.
You're working, you're developing, but you need this degree to get over that barrier of saying only workers with a degree can move to this particular job. So you have these exams, choose 10 of them that you want.
Okay.
Study them, complete the exams, submit them, and then you're going to be moving forward towards the graduation so that you can move forward with your career. So you're ready to go.
Okay, so I also overheard that we have to graduate. We just need 120 units, right? Or 120 points? Okay,
Yes.
But so that means I just need a minimum of 40 more. Is that what you're saying?
Let me see. You have 88 credits, but there's one course in here. Let me check. There's one course in here that I might have to delete. Yeah, how many credits was this? Yeah, so you have 87 credits.
Okay.
So you would basically need 11 more courses.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me see if that changed in your student portal now. Yes, you need 11 courses. So choose 11 courses or add in courses that you see on that list of courses that I just sent you in that Excel. Add them in,
that's fine.
submit your curriculum design, start working on the exams. You can also fill out some QALP reports on work experience to let us know what you've already done in those 3 years of work experience. We'll add that in. You know, if you've been building bridges, for example, okay, we'll get a course in there for building bridges. And maybe you've done foundation design, whatever. Let us know what you've done and we'll get a course, give you credit for your work experience for that.
Okay then.
Okay, everybody,
Okay,
I have to
Thank
go.
you.
I have to go right now because I have another meeting.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor.
So thank you so much, Oluyomi.